Perspective, a wandering soul. Darkness engulfed everything. No form. No sound. No sense of time or space. Only emptiness. The soul drifted like a speck of dust in the endless void, unaware of its identity, unaware of where it had come from. No longer in the frail body of an old cat, no longer burdened by pain or the biting cold of aging flesh. There was only a strange sensation seeping into its consciousness, a vast emptiness as if something crucial had been lost, something vital, yet impossible to recall. In that infinite darkness, a flicker of light suddenly appeared. Then a gateway emerged. Not just one but 6 colossal gates, forming a great circle before the soul's eyes. Each gate was distinct. Each radiated a different aura, as if representing the various paths a soul could take. The soul had stood here before. At some point in the distant past, it had made a choice, chosen a path for its next life. But now there was no memory of that decision. It only knew that it was once again caught in the endless cycle of reincarnation, once again standing before the threshold of fate. But this time something was different. The last time it had felt a sense of freedom. A part of it had been able to choose. But now, it could not. An invisible force began to manifest. It did not ask for consent. It did not allow time for consideration or resistance. It seized the soul and pulled it forcefully toward one of the gates, one the soul had never considered before. The third gate. It blazed, not with the gentle warmth of divine light, but with the scorching flames of war and destruction. Beyond that gate, the echoes of battle roared. The clash of swords. The thunderous beat of war drums. The cries of souls consumed by an endless frenzy. The realm of Azura. Recognition stirred within the soul, though it could not recall why. Then, before another thought could form, the force tightened its grip, hurling the soul into the inferno. It fell endlessly. Searing heat enveloped it, as though it were being burned alive, as though it were becoming part of the very flames themselves. Pain surged beyond limits, then everything went black. The true nightmare had just begun. Perspective, a battlefield in flames. An unbearable heat, as if it was scorching not just his body but his very soul. Ethan opened his eyes, or perhaps for the first time he felt his existence in this new form. Yet the first thing he became aware of was not his body, but the overwhelming inferno consuming the entire space around him. Fire. Everything was burning. The ground was not made of ordinary rock or soil. It was a battlefield of flames, cracked and scorched, where molten lava seeped through the fissures, flowing like blood from the heart of this world. A deafening roar echoed across the land. Ethan turned instinctively. Before him, hundreds, no thousands, of warriors clashed in relentless combat. Blades flashed, spears pierced through flesh, and yet no one fell. This was no ordinary world. He had stepped into the realm of Azura. Then the pain came. A searing, unbearable sensation spread through his body, as if he were being forged in an unseen fire. But this was no weak, frail form of a human. Nor was it the fragile body of an aging stray cat. No. His body now pulsed with raw power, his arms heavy with coiled muscles. His fingers curled into claws, natural weapons designed for war. Before he could even comprehend his transformation, a dark figure lunged at him. Clang. Instinct took over. He barely dodged as a massive blade crashed down, splitting the ground beneath him. Cracks spread like a web, molten rock spewing from the fissures. Ethan looked up at his attacker, a towering Azura warrior, eyes glowing red with bloodlust. "A new blood," the giant bellowed. "Did you come here to die?" There was no time to think. Every cell in Ethan's body screamed at him. Fight. Go. Survive. The next strike came faster. Boom. Ethan jumped back, but a shockwave from the slash still tore through his flesh. Bang. But it was different. This pain wasn't something to fear. It was intoxicating. Like a match thrown into oil, the burning thirst for battle ignited within him. Then he laughed. A laugh that sounded foreign even to himself. The laugh of a true Azura. He was no longer a lost soul wandering between realms. He was part of this war now. Blood burned through his veins. His body moved on instinct. His fists clenched, wrapped in a swirling aura of darkness. And then, he lunged. Crash. His punch sent tremors rippling through the battlefield. Blood splattered. Screams of agony mixed with the roaring flames. No more right or wrong. No more good or evil. Only battle. Only slaughter. Only the insatiable hunger that could never be satisfied. Ethan had fully stepped into the endless cycle of the Azura. Perspective, the enemy. The clash of metal rang through the battlefield, each impact a violent symphony of death. The scent of fresh blood mingled with smoke, saturating the air like an omen of destruction. In the war-torn realm of the Azura, hesitation meant annihilation. Garda, a veteran warrior of the Azura clan, stood atop a hill of flames, his crimson eyes burning like twin infernos. His dark gray armor, cracked and scarred from centuries of battle, still pulsed with an ominous glow, a testament to the unyielding power within. He had seen countless new warriors arrive on this battlefield, and he had personally crushed hundreds of them beneath his blade. But this time, something was different. His gaze swept over the war-torn land below, locking onto a newcomer, someone he had never seen before. A soul without a past, without a name, only a spirit dragged into the vortex of karma, reborn as an Azura warrior. At first, Garda dismissed him as yet another weakling, another nameless body soon to be shredded in the chaos of war. But he was wrong. Boom. A deafening explosion shook the battlefield. Garda's eyes widened as the very ground trembled beneath the newcomer's presence. This was no ordinary warrior. He was laughing. Laughing amidst the carnage. Laughing as blood splattered across his face, as the dying screamed around him. He fought like a cornered beast, but not one that was prey. No, he was a predator, an unstoppable force of destruction. His blows were not elegant. They held no refined technique. They were raw, savage, fueled by an unrelenting ferocity that made even seasoned Azura hesitate. Every strike was meant to kill. No hesitation. No mercy. For the first time in centuries, Garda felt something stir in his chest. A shiver. He had witnessed war for eons. He had bathed in blood, waded through death. Yet now, standing before this nameless warrior, his survival instincts screamed in warning. A vision of the future flashed before his eyes. If this man was allowed to live, he would become a calamity. Garda clenched his jaw. He could not allow that to happen. Slash. With terrifying speed, Garda launched himself from the burning hill, his blade gleaming with a murderous light. He cut through smoke and fire, aiming for the head of the newcomer. But once again he was wrong. No fear. No hesitation. The warrior did not dodge. Instead he lifted his gaze, wild yet eerily cold. And then, boom. A fist met the edge of the blade. No flesh was torn. No blood spilled. Only a shockwave erupted, sending both warriors flying apart. Garda staggered. No one had ever dared to meet his strike head-on like this. No one had ever looked at him with such eyes, not the eyes of a mere warrior but those of a demon incarnate. He could feel it, something shifting. Not just in the battlefield, but within himself. For the first time in millennia, Garda remembered something he had long buried. Fear. Perspective, a lost soul. He stood in the middle of the battlefield. No more screams. No more clashing weapons. Nothing remained except an absolute silence. The wind howled, carrying the scent of blood, mingling with the thick smoke and dust that clung to his skin. Bodies lay scattered around him, friend and foe alike. All crushed beneath his hands. He looked down at himself, his hands still warm, still slick with fresh blood. Yet strangely, he felt nothing. No pain. No regret. No anything. What had he become? The whirlwind of emptiness. The battle had been like a storm, pulling him in with no clear beginning and no discernible end. At first he fought to survive. But then, there was a moment, a fleeting moment he could never forget. When his blade pierced through an enemy, when blood splattered across his face, he smiled. Not a smile of joy. Not a smile of victory. But a wild, instinctual smile, as if he had been born to kill. And in that moment he felt hollow. Memories of strange dreams flickered through his mind. Faint images of past lives, of a soul once yearning for enlightenment, yearning to break free from the endless cycle of reincarnation. But now all that was left was an endless void within him. He was no longer human. He was no longer the lost stray cat wandering the forest. He was nothing more than a phantom drifting through an endless war, a being without direction, without purpose. A call from the void. Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a voice echoed in his mind. Not in words. Not in any language he understood. Just a distant sound, like a whisper from the farthest reaches of the universe. He couldn't comprehend it, yet he felt it. Something was calling him. Something was waiting for him. But should he follow it? He didn't know. He only knew that he was lost, with no way back and no idea what lay ahead. And amidst the lifeless bodies surrounding him for the first time in centuries, he felt something he had long forgotten. Fear. A worthy opponent. The winds of war. The war drums thundered like a raging storm beneath a crimson sky. The ground trembled beneath countless marching feet, the clash of steel against steel echoing like a song of carnage, mingling with the roars of monstrous beasts and the desperate cries of those fighting for their existence. The battlefield of the Azura was a place meant for the strong. There was no room for weakness, no space for hesitation or regret. Only one law reigned supreme: kill or be killed. Ethan had thrown himself into this endless war with every fiber of his being. In the madness of combat, he had long forgotten his past, forgotten the questions that once plagued his mind. Here, amid the roaring flames and the glint of blades, he knew only one thing: fight. But then something changed. A presence emerged. A worthy opponent. A fateful encounter. Ethan had not realized when the battlefield around him had faded into silence. He only knew that in that moment, all other sounds became distant, as though muffled by an unseen force. Only one gaze remained, fixed upon him. The figure stepped forward. A towering presence, clad in dark armor streaked with crimson as if it had been forged in the infernal fires of the underworld. His eyes burned like twin embers, radiating a murderous intent so thick it could suffocate the weak. No words were needed. No taunts, no threats. Both of them understood. This was no ordinary battle. This was a true test, a fight to the death. The blade of fate. The air cracked apart as the two warriors clashed. Steel met steel, claws tore through the wind. Ethan no longer felt anything but the deafening pulse of his own heartbeat and the scorching heat of battle. Every strike was as precise as death's scythe. Every movement carried the weight of destruction. But the most terrifying thing was not his enemy's strength. It was the resemblance between them. Ethan saw it in every strike, every step. He was not merely fighting an adversary. He was fighting himself. A meeting of souls. A blade sliced past Ethan's face, leaving a trail of burning pain. He did not retreat. He roared, lunging forward like a wild beast, casting aside all hesitation. But in the instant their swords crossed once more, something strange happened. He saw himself reflected in his enemy's eyes. Not the image of a warrior. Not a bloodthirsty killer. But the shadow of a man. A man who had once dreamed of something greater than war and vengeance. A man who had once sought the meaning of his existence. A man who had once wanted to escape the cycle of rebirth. His sword wavered. And in that fleeting moment he understood something. But was there still time to change? Or had fate already decreed that he would be forever trapped in this endless cycle of blood and fire? The inner struggle. Instinct and reason. The blade struck like a crimson lightning bolt. Ethan instinctively dodged, his own sword rising to meet the enemy's attack. Metal clashed against metal, sending shockwaves down his arm, leaving it numb and tingling. The force of the blow pushed his feet deep into the blood-soaked battlefield, but he did not retreat. Gritting his teeth, he shoved the enemy's weapon aside and leaped backward, creating distance. I cannot lose. Yet even as his instincts screamed at him to kill, another part of him, the part he had long buried, began to resurface. Why am I fighting? Why do I want to win? This was no longer a battle for survival. This was a battle between two lost souls. A violent storm brewed within him, a war of emotions that had no clear victor. Echoes from the past. In that fleeting moment between life and death, forgotten memories surged forward like a relentless tide. He was no longer on the battlefield. He was falling, plunging into an endless abyss. From the darkness, fragmented images emerged. A man consumed by desire and sin, a tormented soul cast into hell, a stray cat wandering the depths of the forest, a bloodthirsty warrior in the Achula realm. They were all him. They were all the lives he had lived. Ethan's chest tightened. He had convinced himself that he had left the past behind, that each life was a fresh start. But the truth was clear now: karma had never let him go. No matter how many lives he lived, his past sins clung to him like an unbreakable curse. And now, was he repeating the same mistakes? The warrior and the beast. Back in reality, Ethan locked eyes with his opponent. This was not just an enemy. This was his reflection. In those burning eyes he saw rage, hatred, the thirst for blood, and pain. The enemy was just like him. Both of them were bound by an endless war. Ethan tightened his grip around his sword, feeling the cold weight of steel. He could continue. He could give in to the battle, slay the warrior before him, and prove himself stronger. But if he did that, he would become nothing more than a beast of war. He would lose himself again. His sword trembled in his hands. For the first time he hesitated. The choice. What are you waiting for? The enemy roared, swinging his sword once more. Ethan dodged, moving by instinct, but he did not strike back. Instead, he stood firm, staring directly at his opponent. "Do you even know why we fight?" Ethan asked, his voice hoarse against the howling battlefield winds. The enemy hesitated for a brief second. "We are warriors. We were born to fight." His voice was filled with conviction, but beneath it there was doubt. "No." Ethan shook his head. "We fight because we are afraid. Because we don't know any other way." The enemy's expression shifted, but he did not respond immediately. Ethan clenched his fists. He was no longer afraid. He had realized something. He did not have to fight forever. He could choose a different path. But would the battlefield allow him to leave? Would karma set him free? Ethan took a deep breath, preparing himself for the decision that would once again alter his fate. Escaping the realm of Azura. 1. The endless cycle of war. The cries of Azura warriors echoed across the battlefield. Swords clashed, sending sparks flying into the eternal darkness. The thirst for blood never faded. Here war was everything: fight, win, die, and be reborn again only to fight once more. Ethan stood amidst the chaos. He had fought countless battles, fallen and risen again, slain and been slain. At first, he threw himself into war like a wild beast, letting rage and instinct control his body. But the more he fought, the more he felt a deep exhaustion creeping into his very soul. Every time he fell, he would awaken again on the battlefield, blood still fresh on his blade. The cycle was endless. This was not glory. This was not power. This was nothing but an invisible prison, where souls like his were trapped by their own hatred and hunger for victory. When will it end? Ethan muttered, his eyes fixed on the corpses piling up around him. One day he would be just like them. But did he really want that? 2. A moment of realization. Another battle began. Ethan once again stood on the battlefield, facing a new opponent. But this time he did not charge in immediately. He looked at the warrior before him, glowing red eyes, a face twisted with rage, hands trembling with the desire to kill. He had once been the same. He was still the same. But something had changed. For the first time he felt pain not just in his body but in his soul. He no longer felt excitement as he raised his blade. No longer felt joy when an enemy fell. No longer wanted to continue this cycle. But if he did not fight, he would be killed. If he did not kill, then someone else would kill him. This was the fate of an Azura. He had no other choice, right? Ethan gripped his sword tightly, but his hands no longer trembled with anticipation. Instead, he felt a resistance rising from deep within him. No. I don't want this anymore. 3. Awakening in the midst of battle. When his opponent charged forward, Ethan did not resist. He simply stood still. The sword slashed down, cutting through his armor, slicing deep into his flesh. Blood sprayed across the battlefield, but he did not scream. The pain exploded, but he was no longer afraid. He accepted it. In that moment, he felt as if an invisible chain had been severed. Something within him unraveled. The hatred, the bloodlust, the desire for victory. He let go. He collapsed, his blood pooling on the ground. But instead of despair or anger, he felt peace. He had found the way out. For liberation from the Azura realm. Darkness swallowed him. But this time he did not drift aimlessly. He was not afraid anymore. Slowly light emerged. The sounds of war faded, replaced by absolute silence. Ethan opened his eyes. He was no longer on the battlefield. No more blood, no more screams. Before him stood the 6 gates of Samsara. He had truly left the Azura realm. He touched the wound on his chest, but there was no pain. It was nothing more than a remnant of a life now past. He had overcome the trial. But a new question surfaced in his mind. Where do I go next?